Namaste to everybody. We want to wish everybody the happy Krishna Janmashtami. I think some of you are aware, in 2015, we requested the then Endowment Minister Manikyal Rao Garu to declare Krishna Janmashtami as Go Puja Dinotsavam. So that means all the temples in Andhra Pradesh are required to do Go Puja on Krishna Janmashtami. And they have been doing it. So it is at our request. I think I sent the GIVO also, where they recognized Global Hindu Heritage Foundation requesting that to declare Krishna Janmashtami as a Go Puja Dinotsav day. So I thought I will mention that one. And today we are very, very fortunate and we are very happy to have Sri M. Nageswara Rao, who is a retired IPS officer and a former director, Central Bureau of Investigation, which we call CBI. He served for more than 34 years and held a very number of important positions and crucial positions in the central government, as well as state government. So he has experience in urban development, disaster management, policing, law enforcement, crime, corruption, vigilance, and investigation of financial frauds. He is good at doing the root cause of any social and religious problems and offer his invaluable suggestions. After retiring, he started this Equal Rights for Hindu movement. So he feels that constitutionally, we Hindus are denied the fundamental rights. As a result, he organized 2 national conferences, one on Hindu Charter of Demands in 2018 and on Equal Rights for Hindus in 2019. Both were held in Delhi. So I thought he would be the right person to talk about what is happening to Andhra Pradesh, how Hindus are being denied in Andhra Pradesh more so than probably in other states, about the temples, temple atrocities and looting money, and what are the solutions that we can probably hear from him. So now, and let us welcome Sri M. Nageswara Rao to give his view of the status of Hindu temples and Hinduism and Hindus in Andhra Pradesh and the rest of Bharat. Namaste. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. And at the outset, I thank Prakash Rao Garu and the Global Hindu Heritage Foundation for inviting me to be with you and to discuss some of the pressing problems of Hindu society and Hinduism. And I'm immensely grateful to you, sir, Prakash Rao Garu. Thanks for the invitation and then the participation. And, as I understand, in fact, I have come to know about this Global Hindu Heritage Foundation a long time ago, and also their activities on protection of temples and then dharma and such other things. But since I was in service, I could not get in touch with them because I thought that would not be proper for me. So after retiring service, then I got in touch with Prakash Rao Garu, and since then we have been in touch and discussing various issues that affect Hinduism and how to go about it. As you know, the Hindus suffer a lot of disabilities in independent India, much more than what they suffered in the pre-independence India under the British rule or even under the sporadic and intermittent Muslim rule. And these problems emanate from what is called the denial of equal rights by the Constitution of India to Hindus. And what are these rights that the Constitution has denied? There are four types of rights or freedoms that any civilization requires for it to survive. These are political rights. One. So Hindus have political rights. They have no issue with regard to the political rights. All Hindus have political rights. The second one is religious rights. Religious rights has many components. One is the conversions, or the huge conversions at the behest of the international conversion missionary of both the Abrahamic religions, and also how the Constitution enables such a this conversion activity. Number two is about the control of the Hindu temples, that is Hindu religious institutions by the states, which is a secular country. And the third one is about sectarian funding, that is promoting or appeasing one particular or non-Hindu religious people. So this is the discrimination that emanates from the Constitution, Articles 25, 26, and 27. Then the second is the denial of cultural rights on par with the minorities. The third right which is required for any civilization is the cultural rights, which the Constitution of India, Article 29, explicitly denies to Hindus. You can read the Constitution, that article. I'm not saying anything out of my own fantasy. The last one is a denial of equal educational rights on par with minorities. As a result of such a denial of equal educational rights, the intergenerational transmission of the civilizational knowledge and the texts and imparting religious education to Hindus has been stopped since independence. So these are the, out of four the freedoms, three have been denied to Hindus. So our movement is to demand the government to amend the Constitution to give these rights to Hindus on par with the minorities. We are not demanding anything more than what are available to the minorities under the Constitution. All that we say is that treat Hindus equally under the Constitution along with other religious groups. Then there are also these equal rights for Hindus has many other facets. Some of these facets I would like to just read out for you, so that these are one is the Hindu subjugation in an undermining of the Hindu dharma by the government. Then governments knowing Hindu weakness are destroying Hindu temples, that we will be discussing now. And then temple money getting diverted for promotion of other religions. Then Christianization of Hindu temples. Then declining Hindu demography vis-a-vis that is relative decline of Hindu demography. Though in absolute terms it is increasing, but in relativistic terms it is declining. Then lastly, about attacks on Hindu temples. I would not be speaking exclusively about the confining to Andhra Pradesh. I would be speaking in general for the entire country, because what obtains throughout the country also obtains in Andhra Pradesh. So the degree may be slightly higher. And right now, since the GHH, that is Global Hindu Heritage Federation, is focusing on Hindu temples and Ghar Wapsi. In this talk, I would be confining myself about Hindu temples, how the control of Hindu temples has been destroying Hinduism, and what are the ways and means to liberate the temples from government control. Let me also mildly warn you that this session is going to be slightly technical and with a lot of facts and figures. It may be sounding slightly dry, but kindly put up with me, because unless I share facts with you, you would not be able to understand and appreciate the gravity and magnitude of the problem. Now I would share I'll be talking about, I'll be sharing, talking by using the PowerPoint presentation. So this is a PowerPoint presentation. In fact, I made it to the Hindu Dharmacharya Sabha. There is a Hindu Dharmacharya Sabha created by late Swami Dayanand Saraswati of Coimbatore. And then after he passed away, Swami Paramatmanandaji from Rajkot, he is the convener. So they held a meeting. They held, in fact, 3 meetings, one in Delhi, one in Hyderabad, one in Chennai. I made this presentation. I made some small changes to this presentation, and then the same thing I'm sharing. The heading itself must be self-explanatory. And so what I would like to say is ours is a secular constitution, which not only means that the state shall not establish or maintain any religion or religious institution, but also treat all religions equally. As I have already mentioned, Articles 25 and 26 of the Constitution, though guarantee freedom to all religions to establish and manage the religious affairs, but the Hindu temples have been taken over by the government and are being managed throughout the country from the length and breadth of the country. And interestingly, there is no explicit provision in the Constitution that enables the state to take over temples and manage them. Yet, more than 2 lakh temples, along with 20 lakh acres of temple lands, have been taken over by the government. Now, whether it is only with regard to the Hindus or with regard to other religions, because we need to understand that. Otherwise, someone may say that that it's not Hindus alone. The others are also equally affected, which is not true. Now, this is the Muslim religious. What is the status of Muslim religious institutions and properties? The Waqf means that is the endowment. The Muslim endowment is called Waqf. In the year 1913, the Musalman Waqf Validating Act was made by the British government, and that the same was repealed in the year 1954 by enacting a new law by the central government, the Waqf Act. The same thing was again repealed, and a new act has been enacted, the Waqf Act 1995. So the Waqf does not deal with the mosques and zakat. Zakat is it is equivalent to our dharmadayam, that is the contribution made by Hindus. So the Muslims have to pay 2.5% of the zakat, but it is not under the control of the Waqf Act. Similarly, the mosque management is also not under the Waqf Act, because certain of the properties which are given by the Waqf for the purpose of Waqf alone are under the control of the Waqf Act. Then what about the Christian religious institutions? The colonial legislations, such as the Ordination for the Colonies Act 1819, the Bishops Act 1850-53, the Colonial Clergy Act, which is the Indian Church Act 1921. All these acts have been repealed in the year 1960 as per the recommendation of the 5th report of the Law Commission. And here there is an interesting thing which I would like to tell you about this. The Indian Church Act 1927 established an independent church in India by separating it from the Church of England. The Indian Church Act gives a lot of powers to the then Governor General of India or the Viceroy of India to interfere in the church affairs, including also to give church various endowments, lands, and he had the power to appoint various church officials, I think bishops and all those kind of things. So in the year when the Law Commission was asked by the Government of India to suggest the acts which were enacted by the British for repealing, the Law Commission has recommended that the Indian Church Act may be suitably amended, or a new Indian Church Act may be enacted to control the Indian churches. However, there was one member in the Law Commission by name Dr. N.C. Sengupta. He disagreed this view, rightly so, by giving a separate note, and which I read out that little portion of that note, which is very, very vital and important. he says that it is the duty to point out that Indian Church Act 1927 is not consistent with the Constitution of India. He says that, which does not contemplate interference by the government with regard to religious institutions of any community, not to speak of providing for an established church in India. That act, that is the Indian Church Act 1927, proceeds on the basis that the Church of India shall be under the control of the king as the head of the church. King means King of England, and the Archbishop of Canterbury in many matters. The various sections of the Act saves the rights of officers of Indian Church after the separation from English Church. So, therefore, he recommends that since this Indian Church Act, which is analogous to the Hindu Endowments Act, which took over the temples, are inconsistent with the provisions of Indian Constitution as regards management of Hindu religious institutions. So he says that this has to be repealed, and the government of India in the year 1960 considers this dissent note of Dr. N.C. Sengupta and repeals the Indian Church Act and also all other laws governing the Indian churches as mentioned in this slide. As a result, from 1960 onwards, there is no law in India which governs any church in India or Christian religious institution. They are governed by the normal civil procedure codes. So, in other words, the church is the most freest religion in India, followed by Islam, where except for the waqf, that is endowment in Muslim endowments, they are also completely free. So what is the status of Hindu religion, we will see. Now this is the Hindu religion, because slightly as I had warned earlier that this is going to be somewhat technical in nature. So this slide gives you the history of the takeover of temples by the government. The British progressively took over management of Hindu temples by promulgating the Bengal regulation initially in the year 1810, which was applicable only to Bengal presidency areas of those time, followed by the Madras regulation of 1817 and then Bombay regulation of 1827. And interestingly, the Church of England at that time has objected to it, saying that how can a Christian nation, Christian state, manage and run the religious institutions and places of worship of heathens, because that goes against the Christian doctrine, what the idolatry and other things. So there was a tremendous pressure on the British government exerted by the Church of England, and based on that, in the year 1863, the British Parliament enacted the Religious Endowment Act 1863 by repealing the previous Bengal regulation, Madras regulation, and Bombay regulation. And happily, all the Hindu temples were returned to Hindu society. And this particular act also says that wherever necessary, the democratic means should be adopted to ascertain who should manage the Hindu temples. Imagine, it's not today, 1863, that means more than 150 years, or around more than 150 years ago, the British contemplated the democratic means of management of Hindu temples through the Religious Endowment Act 1863. Then, from 1863 till 1927, that is 37 plus 27, around 64 years, the Hindu temples were again managed by the Hindu society, as they were managing earlier prior to the regulations, as I mentioned earlier. Now, there was demand by the Indians that more and more the Hindu should be given and allowed role or a given role in management of the government of the India country. So the Minto Morley, or the committee Minto and Morley, they recommended, which are called Minto Morley reforms. They recommended enactment of the Government of India Act 1919, and accordingly that act was made, whereby elections were conducted for formation of popular governments in various provinces with limited powers. Now, under that act, every 5 years elections were held. So by 1927, the Justice Party, which is the forerunner or predecessor of the DMK in Tamil Nadu, it formed the government in Madras Presidency. And one Subbarayan Gounder, he became the chief minister in 1927. So he made the Madras Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowment Act in 1927, taking over temples in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, present-day Andhra Pradesh, parts of Karnataka, parts of Kerala, and parts of Orissa, taking over all the temples. And this law of 1927, which was made by the Justice Party, became a kind of ominous harbinger or foreteller, forerunner for all other states to make similar laws to take over temples. So, but there is a popular myth, particularly among the Hindu right-wingers, that no, it is the British which took over the temples. It was not. It was not the British which took over Hindu temples, but it was the Justice Party. The process was initiated by Justice Party, the present-day DMK, which took over the temples, and then which is followed by every other government, every other state, and every other political party. Now, what is the consequence of this enactment? Almost all states, as I told you, made laws taking over temples. And as of now, more than 2 lakh temples from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Somnath to Imphal. Imphal is the capital of the state of Manipur, which borders Burma. From that means whole length and breadth of the country, more than 2 lakh temples, along with around 20 lakh acres of temple lands. This is the immovable property, and then properties worth lakhs of crores of rupees, movable properties, and incomes running into several thousand crores annually have been taken over and nationalized by the various state governments. The control of temples in certain states may be more stricter and more stricter, and in certain other states it could be tenuous. But then, nonetheless, the temples are not free from government control in any states, though there are smaller temples and some other temples like ISKCON and a few others, Swaminarayan, etc. They are not there, but they are few, far and few in between, whereas the majority of the temples have been under the control of the government. Now, this unfortunately, irrespective of the political color of the ruling party, the state governments continue to nationalize more and more temples. It is not that no, they have done it. It's a one-time affair. It has been going on. The latest example is the nationalization of more than 50 Chardham temples, that is in Uttarakhand, by the BJP government. So BJP is also not behind in nationalizing Hindu temples and depriving Hindu society. So evidently, the denial of the right of freedom to manage our own temples, the so-called majority Hindus in India fare no differently from the Dhimmis in the Islamic countries, where Hindi Dhimmis do not have many rights. So we are, in a way, we are a Dhimmi or a second-class citizen under the constitution, ironically prepared by the nominal Hindus of the Constituent Assembly. Now, a lot of people have been trying, making their efforts to get some relief from the courts. But unfortunately, courts have not only not helped solve the Hindu problem, so they have become the problem. From a cursory review of the judicial pronouncements since the coming into force of the Constitution, it becomes evident that shorn of legally, our courts have failed to ask and answer a very simple question, an elementary question. What is that elementary question? That how can a secular state manage a religious institution? If it is, does it not affect the secularism? And if the states are so interested in managing Hindu temples, then let the constitution be amended to declare India as a Hindu Rashtra, or to declare Hinduism as the official religion of India, and then you manage temples as the Sri Lanka and many other countries they do it. And then not only that, even the judges are busy taking over Hindu temples. For instance, you see the Padmanabha Swami temple where the erstwhile Maharaja of Travancore he is the head of the temple management. He's called temple management. Somebody filed some case in the court, Supreme Court, and Supreme Court ordered that the district judge of Trivandrum shall manage the temple, and then the Travancore Maharaja will only be nominal title or head. That means this is a judicial takeover of the temple. On the other side, we have what is called the political takeover of the temples by the government, and here it is judicial taking over of the temples. And in case of Orissa, even the endowment commissioner who manages Hindu temples is a district judge or district judge rank officers, and there are other judges and judicial magistrates who are managing the temples. And the courts in India have also usurped what is called ecclesiastical jurisdiction. The constitution does not provide for any ecclesiastical jurisdiction on the judiciary, on the judges and courts in India. Yet they have usurped since 1953 onwards till date. They have usurped the ecclesiastical jurisdiction by claiming themselves as if they are the dharmacharyas of Hinduism. Now, there is also another problem. Hinduism and Abrahamism, they are totally different systems. India, rightly or wrongly, follows Anglo-Saxon jurisprudence, which is Abrahamic in nature. Now, these judges who have assumed ecclesiastical jurisdiction, they apply the Abrahamic principles of jurisprudence or the Anglo-Saxon principles of jurisprudence to interpret and decide cases relating to Hindu religion. This is like trying to fix a square peg in a round hole. How is that possible? And since that is not possible, what they are doing is they are even establishing religion or deciding or pontificating about Hinduism in the pattern of Abrahamism, which is not Hinduism. In fact, what they pontificate is a new religion. I have already written on that, whether we are a people of, I have written an article and published in the New Indian Express, published from Madras, that is Chennai. The title of it is this, are we people of book or people of books? Because Hinduism is a religion of books. It is not a religion of the book. Whereas our courts are trying to fix us from a religion of books to the religion of the book. And that is the problem. So in other words, to put it simply, the judiciary is not part of the solution, rather it is part of the problem, Hindu problem. Then we need a framework for Hindu religion. And how do we have that framework? This is the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. It was made in the year 2007, and India, as a member state, it has signed and ratified the UN declaration. It is called UN DRIPS declaration, DRIPS. It's called, the short form is UN DRIPS. The salient features of this UN declaration are the three I mentioned here. That is, it imposes obligation on member states. It is essentially protect, preserve, nurture, and promote indigenous religious, spiritual, cultural traditions by suitable legislative and policy interventions. Now, India has signed this declaration, but it has not yet implemented this declaration. Article 253 of the Indian Constitution obligates Parliament of India to make laws for the whole of India on any subject to implement international conventions. So we are the indigenous people. Hinduism is indigenous, Sanatana Dharma is indigenous, Sikhism is indigenous, Jainism is indigenous, Buddhism is indigenous. Our all other local traditions are indigenous. But Government of India has not taken any step in order to make law in compliance to the UN declaration, that is UN RIPS, to protect indigenous religion that is Hinduism and all its sister philosophical and spiritual traditions. So what is required is this. Then the first and foremost thing that is required for liberating temples from the government control, that is 2 lakh temples and 40 lakh acres of land, which are essentially Hindu institutions, because without an institution, a religion cannot survive. And without resources, a religion cannot have fuel to further its purposes. So both the resource ability and institutional capacity of Hinduism have been deprived because of the government takeover of the temples. So what is required in my view is that the government has to amend the Articles 25 and 26 of the Constitution, first prohibiting the takeover of the temples by anyone. Like you have the, I think, First Amendment or Second Amendment in the United States, which gives the certain rights, it's inviolable rights. Something similar has to happen with respect to Indian Constitution. And also the Government of India must make a central law and repealing all the state laws and thereby liberating Hindu temples. Now, the guidance for this, what should be the contours of this law? This is the one. If you can go through, if you can read this, because as I said, this is a very highly technical issues. It could be boring also, but kindly put up with me because we have to understand the gravity of the situation. So the law, the Constitution amendment should have these things. It should provide for access to public temples to all Hindus respecting the local religious customs. Then because if you see the Sabarimala issue, the Supreme Court has applied a secular principle called the gender justice to a religious institution, that is Sabarimala, whereby it has violated thousands of years of the local tradition that the Sabarimala Ayyappa is a Naistika Brahmachari, and people in the productive age group, the women in the productive age group, are prohibited from going there. But Supreme Court overruled that by applying the secular principle on a religious institution. So therefore, it's very important that respecting religious custom is necessary, and that has to be incorporated into the Constitution. Then secondly, the management of temples and their properties shall be by representatives of devotees. Whosoever is the devotee, if there are so many devotees, then the devotees can elect their own representatives to manage the temples. For instance, Tirupati temple. Now the government appoints the trustees there. Why Tirupati? All the 2 lakh temples in the country, under the control of government, the government appoints. They have nothing to do with the devotees' concern. So here we recommend that the Article 25 of the Constitution has to be amended to provide for democratic management of Hindu temples through the representatives of the devotees. And it should be inclusive also, and where the state or the government shall have no control over the Hindu temples. Then the wealth, resources and income of the temples must be used only for promotion, preservation and propagation of Hinduism, not what it is being done in many states where Hindu resources, Hindu temple money, wealth are being used That's a big topic. I will, when an opportunity comes, I'll discuss with all the details. But cursorily, I would like to say that unless this provision is made into the constitution, the state governments, state chief ministers will continue to enable a situation whereby Hindu temple wealth is looted and not used for Hindu purposes. Because you see, it's an irony, it's preposterous that we claim that no, Tirupati is the world's richest temple, or at least in income wise. But conversions take place in Tirupati and Tirumala itself. So what is the use of that wealth? What is the use of that income? Because we are, by giving money to Hindu temples, we are only financing our destruction. Because the temples right now are under the government control and they are using that money for anti-Hindu purposes. Then prohibition of non-Hindus from taking part in the management and administration or any other activity of temples. There are so many reports that large number of non-Hindus have either been appointed or after they are appointed, they converted. Some people, I think around 3-4 years ago, some work was done to identify these people in Tirupati, and immediately those people went to court and got stay order against their dismissal, as I understand from the newspaper reports. Then the Hindu temples, if you see what is happening across the country, a large number of temples are being demolished by the governments. Forget about private parties. On some pretext or other, suppose they are making a road or they are expanding an existing road. So what they do is they demolish temples. Why can't the road be realigned? It is as simple as this. But they want to demolish the existing temple. And then there are many other purposes for which, when a factory is coming up or some dam is under construction or something, and then they destroy the temples. So we need protection of the temples from destruction by the state or non-state authorities. Suppose if it is required for a public purpose, that particular thing, and there is no other way except by demolishing that temple, in that case, government must make proper facilities, must provide land and other resources and reconstruct a temple of the similar or larger scale, and then only they should be allowed to demolish this temple. That kind of provision is required into the constitution. And also, as I have mentioned, we need unlike the Abrahamic religions, we do not have any particular infrastructural framework or institutional framework. In the absence of institutional framework, there is nobody who would articulate Hindu views, either at the local level or at the district level or at the state level or even at national level. And if you go back in the known history of Hinduism, which is known to me or to many people, for the first time around 2500 years ago, it was Sri Adi Shankara Rao who gave us an institutional framework to Hinduism for the first time. How did he do that? He established 4 mutts in 4 corners of the country, and also Kanchi mutt, and given them responsibility for intergenerational transmission of Hindu civilizational knowledge and scriptures. Then he established 18 akhadas. Akhadas means akhanda, means the one which will protect the integrity of the dharma. Akhanda is the integrity, dharma. These akhadas means they are physical armies. He created 18 armies. Can you imagine? Sri Adi Shankara, being a spiritual person, he created 18 akhadas. And these mutts and akhadas, what did they do? The mutts have transmitted Shastra, that is knowledge, Hindu civilizational knowledge, by taking, by helping the temples, by creating various other means. And the akhadas, what they have done? They have re-energized Hindu society by propagating Shastra, that is weaponry, that is the art of war, art of defending Hinduism. So Adi Shankara has established these in order to uh, reintroduce Shastra and Sastra. That means the mental power or the spiritual power and physical prowess. Now, without physical prowess, you cannot protect dharma. You cannot protect anything. Suppose if you cannot even protect your own house. Suppose if they imagine there are no police, there is no police system, and if people attack your home, what do? You, your children, your relatives, all others, you will repel the attack. But that kind of power is required. That is called Shastra. So now we need to create an institutional framework for Hinduism, taking inspiration from Adi Shankara, not necessarily by following the same thing, but taking guidance from our dharmacharyas, that is, the Shankaracharyas and other dharmacharyas. We must create uh, an institutional framework in the form of the whatever may be the name, you can call it Hindu Parishads or Hindu Dharma Sabhas, at the district level, at the state level, and at the national level. Without this framework, it will be very difficult to organize Hindus. The RSS mode of organizing things is not going to help. In fact, I will be, in my concluding remarks, I'll mention how, in fact, it is contributing to the destruction of Hinduism. Now, these are that central law which I was mentioning can be named as the Central Hindu Temple Act, which will have all these things. The central government has the power to enact this law, and the certain of the principles, because we have to take best practices from other religions also. The Indian Church Act provides for some kind of a guidance in that. So also the Hindu, that is Religious Endowments Act of 1863, which was made by the British, and also the Kamakhya Devi temple in Guwahati. It has a beautiful example where democratically the people, that is the pujaris and others, devotees, they elect the management and then they run it. And also the Waqf Act and the Sikh Gurudwara Act, where SGPC is enacted. So this is the one. The Hindu Temple Act shall also repeal as I mentioned. For various reasons, the RSS and BJP became the self-assumed sole contractors of Hinduism. And based on that, they have created an impression that they are the sole protectors of Hinduism and have been reaping huge electoral harvests, particularly since 2014. Without actually doing anything to redress Hindu grievances or undo the injustices of to the Hindu society. And so therefore, it is our job to create public pressure, create awareness, so that the BJP governments which have come into power on Hindu vote, they undo the injustices to the Hindu inflicted on Hindus and Hinduism through various constitutional, legal, and policy interventions. Now, finally, I would like to read out one sentence so that concludes my remarks. Without liberating temples from government control, it is impossible to re-Hinduize Hindu society and protect Hinduism. And if we do not liberate the temples, I foresee that Hinduism is not going to survive any longer, maybe 50, 60 years, and after that, it will have a true death. So therefore, in order to protect our religion, we have to liberate Hindu temples and thereby give back the institutional support and resource ability. And I thank you all for giving me the opportunity, and I especially thank Prakash Rao Garu for giving the opportunity. I know the session is very, very, very technical, and I'm sorry that it has got to be technical, because in order to make it clear, the source of the problem, that is root cause analysis, I have done. And this has been accepted by the Hindu Dharmacharya Sabha, and they are also in the process of doing something, but I don't know how far they are going to achieve those results. Thank you very much once again, Prakash Rao and all others. Thank you.
Nageswara, we are very happy. I tell you, the presentation is excellent. We just learned so much, the history going back to 1800, and I think all of us have to digest this information, so that way we know what kind of actions we need to take. So we want to really thank you for your presentation. Now, I would request, you see, this is the procedure we are going to take the rest of the 1 hour that we have. Srinivas Pinnamneni, he is going to talk about our activities, Global Hindu Heritage activities, especially Garvapsi. And then Pawan Neti is going to talk about a couple of things, and then he will give a vote of thanks also. So now I think Srinivas can go ahead and narrate some of the things what we are doing at the ground level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle. And namaskar to all of our members. Basically, our task for a Global Hindu Heritage Foundation is to save our Sanatan Dharma and save our culture and protect what is happening from the atrocities back in India. So I moved to India from US after 20 years of stay. Now I decided I should work something with Prakash Rao after seeing his struggle for so many years. I closely observed him, the effort he put, the struggle he went through, the questions he was been asked, and all those things. So I thought I should do something. So basically, I am working at the ground level now from Visakhapatnam, covering Telangana and Andhra Pradesh at this point. And our only goal is primarily now is on Garvapsi. Basically, two things is, one is to bring our brothers and sisters who move to the other faith into our religion, and just purely by explaining what is our greatness, what is our ancestry, what happened in the past, what made them to move into the other religions, these kind of things. No criticism, no hatred, nothing like that. Purely we're explaining what is our dharma, what is our roots, kind of things. And there is a very great response coming through. And second thing is that we won't even stop people from going from our dharma to the other things, because there are very simple reasons and very silly reasons also. And they're getting lured into using various methods. So we are going to explaining those things. And we started this Garvapsi program with a very few people. I think we started with only 3 people. Now we have close to 16 people across both the states working on various districts. And their job is they spend whole 5 days of a week only for Dharma Prachara. Once they are back into our Dharma, how we are able to retain them, and what are the programs we are conducting them. So we invite every bhajan program, every speech, and we make sure that they attend the temple regularly. And some of the temples we are supporting them to renovate with the help of the villagers. So for some of the villages, we are asking them to contribute from door to door. And the remaining balance, like 10% or 50% of the funding we are raising, and see that the temple is renovated and make sure that the regular events happen in this temple. These kind of things we are working on those things. Also, there are people coming back to almost in the past 3 months. I came across at least 17 organizations calling me and asking me how we are doing this, how I am being funded, what efforts, what are the issues we are coming across, these kind of things. Because Global Hindu Heritage Foundation is the only organization I came across in the past 2 years who is spending money for pracharaks, because most of the pracharaks are either poor or lower middle class people. So it is not easy to go village to village with their own money and explain what our dharma is, those things. There are very few people who have a real fire to work for our dharma. Still, they cannot step out because of this financial reason. So we thought we should support them financially, because most of the supporters are abroad outside India. They seriously want to save their dharma and still they couldn't do much. So we are here as a platform helping these people. and more, all our pracharaks are very enthusiastic, and it's a very really honest, it's a tough job going into infested areas and facing this kind of crowd who question left and right. You are the only person answering all these questions, and you will have like 20-30 people posing questions on top of you. So it's not easy task, but still I should appreciate all our pracharaks and the effort they're making, the risk they are taking. It's not easy. You know, in some other places, once you go and you fail to handle, the next day you cannot go into the same street. So it is very tactical. There's no fixed procedure to handle this kind of things. But intuitively, I had to go through these things, and our material is so clear. It is explaining what exactly is in the Bible, including the page number, the chapter number, everything. They can on spot open their Bible and refer to those what is mentioned in the Bible and compare to our Dharma. So it is so crystal clear. Very, very few people have like argued with us, and 90% of people, they are really happy with that. And there are so many people who are calling us and saying that we never seen such a program. We really want to join you people and let us know what kind of help we can do or how can we contribute. These kind of things are happening. And I hope by end of this year, we are going to spread across at least to 25 pracharaks. So that's I'm hoping, and the target should be at least 2,000 to 3,000 per annum at this point of time. So that is a really big change now. And there are few people who called even from Spain, whose ancestors are from India, and even they're explaining how Christianity is working there and how they want to work on us. So Dr. Prakash Sagar is trying to get the material even in English also, so that we can send it to them. And so briefly, this is thing. There's a more lot to talk, but because of time constraint, so this is what I'm doing. And finally, I want to conclude saying that if anyone want to work or support us, you're always welcome in any kind or a form. Either you can help us find a proper people, like suitable pracharaks, or financially, or any support, you are most welcome, and we are welcome to take your ideas also. That ends my words. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Santa.
Right. Thank you, Srinath sir. I think with that, we conclude the presentation actually, and also the vote of thanks. So if anybody wants to support any activities for Global Hindu Heritage Foundation, GHHF, kindly reach out Sri Prakash Rao at the number I gave you before, 601-918-7111.